The great hall of the Galactic Council buzzed with nervous energy. Representatives from hundreds of worlds sat in their floating pods, whispers echoing through the vast chamber. At the center podium, Ambassador Zethkar of the Milani Federation stood with trembling hands, his blue skin pale with fear. "Council members," Zethkar began, his voice shaking, "I bring grave news from the outer sectors. The Vex Dominion and the Thren Collective have officially declared total war against each other." A collective gasp filled the chamber. These two empires had been enemies for centuries, but they had always kept their conflicts small. Total war meant something much worse was coming. Elder Counselor Vorth, an ancient being whose species had watched the galaxy for thousands of years, leaned forward in his pod. "What are their demands, Ambassador?" Zethkar's hands shook as he read from his datapad. "Both empires are calling for immediate military support from all member species. They want ships, soldiers, and resources. Any world that refuses will be considered an enemy and conquered." The chamber erupted in panicked voices. Smaller species knew they had no choice but to obey. The Vex Dominion controlled crystal technology that could slice through planets. The Thren Collective had bioships that could adapt to any weapon. Fighting either empire meant certain death. "What about the newer members?" asked Representative Klix from the Trading Federation. "The species that joined recently?" Zethkar scrolled through his list. "All must contribute, including the humans from Earth." At the mention of humans, Elder Vorth's ancient eyes widened slightly. Several other old council members shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Most representatives barely remembered the humans. They had joined the Galactic Council only 50 years ago, presenting themselves as a peaceful farming species interested in trade and cultural exchange. Meanwhile, on Earth, Dr. Sarah Chun sat in a hidden facility deep beneath the Rocky Mountains. Banks of screens showed feeds from across the galaxy. Her team of analysts watched the council meeting with growing concern. "Ma'am," called Lieutenant Rodriguez from his station, "both empires just sent official demands to Earth. They want us to choose a side and provide military support." Dr. Chun sighed and rubbed her tired eyes. For 50 years, humanity had played the role of harmless farmers and traders. It had been a useful disguise, allowing them to study galactic politics without drawing attention. Now that careful facade was about to crumble. "Contact Admiral Rivara," she ordered. "Tell him to prepare the fleets for possible action." "All of them, ma'am?" Dr. Chun looked at the screens, showing the panic in the Galactic Council. These aliens had no idea what they were about to witness. "Yes, Lieutenant. All of them." Back in the council chamber, the debate continued. Representative after representative stood to pledge their support to one empire or the other. The smaller species had no choice. The larger ones tried to negotiate for better terms. Everyone knew that refusing both empires meant facing their combined wrath. "What about Earth?" asked Counselor Maleth from the Core Worlds. "Have the humans responded yet?" Zethkar checked his communications. "No response yet. But it doesn't matter. Earth has a small population and primitive technology. They'll have to choose a side like everyone else." Elder Vorth said nothing, but his old eyes held a worried look. He remembered stories his grandfather had told him, legends from before the current galactic order. Stories about a species that had fought wars so terrible they had exiled themselves to the galaxy's edge. Most people thought those stories were just myths on Earth. President Maria Santos sat in the Oval Office reading reports from her military advisors. The public had no idea their planet was home to one of the most advanced military forces in the galaxy. For 50 years, Earth had maintained the illusion of being a simple agricultural world while secretly building technology that surpassed anything the galaxy had seen. "Madam President," said General Harrison, entering the room with a grim expression, Intelligence reports that both empires are mobilizing their fleets. They expect Earth to provide support within 72 hours. President Santos looked out the window at the peaceful city beyond. Children played in parks while their parents went about their daily lives, unaware that their world was about to become the center of galactic attention. General, what's our current military status? All defensive systems are online, ma'am. The fleet stands ready. Our ships are hidden throughout the outer rim, just as planned. We could mobilize the entire force within hours if needed. The President nodded slowly. And the aliens have no idea what our true capabilities are. None at all, ma'am. They still think we're farmers with basic spaceflight. Our trading ships and agricultural stations have maintained perfect cover for 5 decades. In the Galactic Council chamber, the emergency session continued into its 10th hour. Representatives were exhausted, but the debate raged on. The two empires had given everyone just 3 days to choose sides. After that, neutrality would not be an option. Perhaps we should send observers to Earth, suggested Representative Clicks, to help the humans understand their situation. Elder Vorth finally spoke, his ancient voice carrying across the chamber. I do not think that would be wise. Why not, Elder? Asked Zethkar. They're just farmers and traders. They'll need guidance in these troubled times. The old counselor was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was barely above a whisper. Has anyone here actually visited Earth? Seen their cities, their technology, their people? The chamber fell silent. Most representatives had only met human traders at neutral stations. Earth itself was rarely visited by outsiders. The humans claimed it was because of environmental protection laws. But now some began to wonder if there were other reasons. I have lived for over 2,000 years, Elder Vorth continued. I have heard stories from my ancestors about the old wars, the terrible conflicts that shaped our galaxy long ago. There are legends about a species that became so skilled at warfare that they voluntarily withdrew from galactic politics. A species that chose isolation over domination. Elder, Zister said nervously. Surely you're not suggesting. I'm suggesting nothing, the old being replied. I'm simply observing that perhaps we know less about our human friends than we think we do. On Earth, the final preparations were being made. Admiral Rivera stood on the bridge of the UES Retribution, watching his crew run through combat exercises. His ship, like all human vessels, was disguised as a simple cargo hauler. In reality, it mounted weapons and defenses that could challenge an entire enemy fleet. Admiral called his communications officer. We're receiving transmissions from both the Vex and Thren fleets. They're demanding our immediate surrender and allegiance. Rivera smiled grimly. Time to drop the act, it seems. Send a message to both fleets. Tell them that Earth respectfully declines to participate in their war. Sir, they're demanding a response within 6 hours, or they'll consider us hostile. The Admiral looked out at the stars, knowing that hidden among them were hundreds of human warships waiting for his signal. Then I suppose we'll have to show them what happens when you threaten a world full of farmers. As the countdown began, neither the Galactic Council nor the warring empires had any idea that they were about to witness the awakening of a sleeping giant. The peaceful farmers of Earth were about to remind the galaxy why humanity had once been the most feared species among the stars. The Vex Dominion fleet arrived at Earth first. 20 massive crystal ships dropped out of hyperspace, their surfaces gleaming with deadly energy. Each ship was the size of a small city, armed with weapons that could crack planets open like eggs. Fleet Commander Zixtol felt confident as he looked at the small blue world spinning peacefully below. Scan the planet, he ordered. Show me their defenses. His tactical officer's crystalline features showed confusion. Sir, I'm detecting very few military installations, mostly agricultural facilities and small trading stations. Commander Zixta laughed, a sound like breaking glass. As expected, these primitive humans will surrender quickly once they see our power. An hour later, the Thren Collective arrived. 15 bioships slithered out of jump space, their living hulls pulsing with organic weapon systems. Fleet Admiral Mordak studied the Vex ships with disgust, then turned his attention to Earth. Pathetic, he growled through his communication implant. Both the Vex and these humans are beneath our notice. We'll crush them both and claim this system for the collective. On Earth, Admiral Marcus Rivera sat calmly in his command chair aboard what looked like an ordinary cargo ship. The UES Retribution drifted among dozens of other merchant vessels near Earth's orbital stations. To any outside observer, they appeared to be simple trading ships going about their daily business. "Admiral," reported his sensor officer, 35 hostile vessels in total. The Vex fleet is holding position near the moon. The Thren ships are approaching from the outer system. "Excellent," Rivera replied. "Open a channel to both fleets." The communication screens flickered to life, showing the alien commanders side by side. Both looked supremely confident, their expressions showing the casual arrogance of predators approaching helpless prey. "I am Admiral Marcus Rivera of the United Earth Space Force," he began politely. "On behalf of my government, I must inform you that Earth respectfully declines to participate in your conflict. We suggest you take your fleets and continue your war elsewhere." Commander Zixtal's crystal features flashed with anger. "You dare refuse the Vex Dominion? We have conquered 1,000 worlds. Your pathetic planet will join our empire or be reduced to ash." Admiral Mordok's biomechanical form writhed with contempt. "The Thren Collective claims this system. Surrender now, and we may allow some of you to live as slaves." Rivera sighed and shook his head sadly. "Gentlemen, you have been warned. What happens next is your choice." Both alien commanders cut their communications and immediately ordered their fleets to attack positions. The Vex ships formed a crystal lattice formation, their weapons charging with deadly energy. The Thren vessels spread out like hunting beasts, their organic weapons beginning to glow with bioplasma. "All ships," Rivera announced on the human fleet channel. "You are authorized to defend Earth. Drop camouflage and engage the enemy." What happened next would be talked about in galactic history classes for centuries to come. The harmless cargo ships around. Earth suddenly transformed. Hull plating slid away to reveal massive weapons batteries. Sensor arrays unfolded like deadly flowers. The simple trading vessels revealed themselves as warships more advanced than anything the galaxy had ever seen. The agricultural domes on Earth's surface opened to reveal planetary defense cannons the size of skyscrapers. Orbital stations that had seemed like peaceful research facilities powered up shields, and weapon systems that made the alien fleets look like children's toys. Commander Zixtal watched in horror as his scanners finally penetrated the human camouflage systems. "Impossible," he whispered. "These readings, their technology is centuries ahead of ours." The first human ship to fire was a destroyer that had been disguised as a grain transport. Its main cannon sent a beam of pure energy across space, striking a Vex cruiser with surgical precision. The alien ship didn't explode. Instead, its weapon system simply stopped working. Its engines went dead, and its shields collapsed. The ship was completely disabled, but undamaged. "Warning shot," Rivera announced calmly. "Surrender now, and you will be treated according to galactic law." Instead of surrendering, both fleets opened fire with everything they had. Thousands of energy beams and bioplasma bolts streaked toward the human ships. It was enough firepower to destroy a dozen planets. None of it got through. The human ships moved with impossible grace, dodging attacks that should have been unavoidable. Their shields absorbed direct hits from planet-killing weapons without even flickering. Return fire from the human fleet was precise and devastating, disabling enemy ships faster than the aliens could target them. Within 2 hours, the entire Vex fleet was drifting helplessly in space. Their weapons were dead, their engines were silent, and their crews were trapped inside ships that had become floating prisons. Not a single Vex warrior had been killed, but their fleet was completely neutralized. The Thren Collective fared even worse. Their bioships, which could adapt to most attacks, found themselves facing weapons they couldn't understand or defend against. Human fighters swarmed through their formations like angry insects, disabling ship after ship with weapons that seemed to know exactly where to strike for maximum effect. Admiral Mordok found his flagship surrounded by human vessels that had appeared from nowhere. His organic weapons tried to adapt to their attack patterns, but the humans kept changing their tactics faster than his ships could respond. "This is impossible," he roared as his bioship's nervous system was systematically shut down by human cyber warfare. "No species fights like this. What are you?" Rivera's voice came through the communication system with the same polite tone he had used before. "We're farmers, Admiral. We just happen to be very good at protecting our crops." In 4 hours, both invasion fleets were completely neutralized. 35 of the galaxy's most advanced warships had been turned into helpless hulks without a single human casualty. The aliens found themselves prisoners on their own ships, watching human boarding parties secure their vessels with military efficiency that bordered on the supernatural. The Galactic Council received the first reports an hour after the battle ended. Representative after representative sat in stunned silence as they read the tactical summaries. The humans had not just won. They had made the two most powerful military forces in the galaxy look like amateurs. "Impossible," whispered Zethkar. "The reports must be wrong. No one could disable 2 invasion fleets without destroying a single ship." Elder Vorth sat quietly in his pod, his ancient eyes sad but not surprised. "The reports are accurate, Ambassador. The question now is what we do with this information." "What do you mean?" asked Representative Klix nervously. "I mean," the old counselor replied, "that we have just learned the truth about humanity. I suspect this demonstration was them being gentle." On Earth, President Santos received the final battle report in her office. Both alien fleets were secured, their crews were being processed as prisoners of war, and Earth's secret was finally out. "Casualties?" she asked. "None, Madam President. Some minor hull damage to 3 ships, but no injuries." The president nodded and looked out at the peaceful city beyond her window. Children were still playing in the parks, their parents still going about their daily lives. Most of Earth's population had no idea their world had just fought off 2 invasion fleets. "Madam President," said General Harrison, "we're receiving frantic communications from across the galaxy. Both empires are demanding explanations. The Galactic Council is requesting an emergency meeting. Everyone wants to know what happened here." President Santos smiled grimly. "Then I suppose it's time to have that conversation we've been avoiding for 50 years. The galaxy was about to learn that the peaceful farmers of Earth had been keeping a very big secret. And this was just the beginning." The emergency session of the Galactic Council had been running for 3 days straight. Representatives from across the galaxy demanded answers, their voices mixing in a chaos of fear and confusion. The news of Earth's military demonstration had spread through every sector, and panic was beginning to set in. "Order! Order!" shouted Chairman Valtar, his tentacles waving frantically as he tried to control the chamber. "We must have calm discussion." Representative Klix stood up in his pod, his voice shaking with anger. "Calm? How can there be calm? The humans lied to us for 50 years. They made us believe they were harmless farmers." "They never lied," Elder Vorth said quietly from his ancient pod. They said they were peaceful. They said they preferred agriculture and trade. They simply didn't mention their other capabilities. Zethkar pointed an accusing finger at the empty human pod. Where are they? Why haven't the humans answered our emergency summons? As if in response to his question, the chamber's main screen flickered to life. President Maria Santos appeared, sitting calmly behind her desk in the Oval Office. She looked tired but determined, like someone who had been preparing for this moment for a very long time. "Honorable Council members," she began, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber. "I apologize for the delay in responding to your summons. We've been somewhat busy dealing with the aftermath of recent events." Chairman Veltar leaned forward urgently. "President Santos, the Council demands an explanation. How did humanity develop such advanced military technology? Why did you hide your true capabilities from us?" President Santos chose her words carefully. "We never hid anything, Chairman. We simply didn't advertise our defensive capabilities. As for how we developed them, that's a long story involving our species' history before joining the galactic community." "Before joining?" Representative Malath interrupted. "What happened before you joined the Council?" The President was quiet for a moment, as if deciding how much to reveal. "Let's just say that humanity learned long ago that peace requires the ability to defend itself. We came to the galaxy seeking a better way to live. But we never forgot the lessons of our past. Across the galaxy, in the heavily defended fortress worlds of the Vex Dominion, Supreme Commander Kethrin studied the tactical reports from Earth with growing fury. His crystal body pulsed with angry energy as he read about the humiliating defeat of their invasion fleet. "Impossible," he growled to his war council. "No species should possess such technology. There must be an explanation." General Flux Ara, his tactical advisor, projected holographic displays showing the battle. "Our analysis suggests the humans have been hiding their true capabilities for decades. Their ships showed technology at least 50 years ahead of anything we've encountered. Then we'll crush them with overwhelming force," Kethron declared. "Mobilize the entire First Assault Fleet. 200 ships should be more than enough to deal with these upstart farmers." Meanwhile, in the biochambers of the Thren Collective, Hive Mind Morthek writhed with rage and humiliation. Its organic network processed the battle data through thousands of linked minds, each one reaching the same conclusion. The humans were far more dangerous than anyone had realized. "The shame burns through every cell," Morthek spoke to its warforms. "Never has the collective been so dishonored. We will respond with the full might of our evolution. Shall we coordinate with the Vex?" asked Battleform Zargoth. "No," Morthek replied, its biomass pulsing with determination. "Let them waste their fleets first. We will watch and learn from their failure, then strike with perfect adaptation." Back in the Galactic Council chamber, the debate continued with increasing desperation. Smaller species worried that if humanity could defeat the two major empires, what did that mean for everyone else? President Santos, Chairman Veltar said carefully, "The Council needs to understand your intentions. Will humanity seek to dominate the galaxy now that your true power is revealed?" The President's expression softened slightly. "Chairman, we have no interest in conquest or domination. We simply want to be left alone to live our lives in peace. We joined the galactic community hoping to find others who shared that desire." "But your military capabilities," pressed Representative Klix. "How can we trust you with such power?" "The same way you've trusted us for 50 years, President Santos replied. "We've had these capabilities the entire time we've been members of your council. In all that time, have we ever threatened anyone? Have we ever used force except in self-defense?" Elder Vorth nodded slowly. "The President speaks truth. In 50 years of membership, humanity has been a model citizen. They've traded fairly, shared knowledge freely, and never shown aggression. Until now, Zethkar muttered. Until they were attacked, Vorth corrected firmly. The humans responded to unprovoked invasion with the minimum force necessary to defend themselves. They disabled the enemy fleets without killing anyone. If anything, they showed remarkable restraint. On Earth, Admiral Rivera stood in the war room deep beneath the Pentagon, studying holographic displays of galactic military movements. The intelligence was disturbing. Both empires were mobilizing their full forces for a massive assault on human space. "Admiral," reported Colonel Chang, "spy satellites are detecting major fleet movements. The Vex are assembling over 200 ships in the Rigel system. The Thren Collective is gathering biofleets throughout the outer spiral." Rivera nodded grimly. "Time frame?" "Best estimate, sir. Both fleets will be ready to move within a week. Intelligence suggests they're planning a coordinated assault." "Fools," Rivera muttered. "They learned nothing from the first demonstration." General Harrison entered the room with a worried expression. "Admiral, we're receiving encrypted communications from several member species of the Galactic Council. They're warning us about the Empire mobilizations." "Which species?" "The Milani Federation, the Elder Kithani, and surprisingly, the Trading Federation. It seems some of our galactic neighbors are genuinely concerned for our safety." Rivera smiled grimly. "Or they're terrified of what happens if this escalates further." In the council chamber, President Santos continued to field increasingly desperate questions. The revelation of humanity's true capabilities had shattered many assumptions about galactic power structures. "President Santos," Chairman Veltar said urgently, "we're receiving reports that both empires are mobilizing their full fleets. They intend to overwhelm your defenses with sheer numbers." The president's expression grew cold. "I see. And what is the council's position on this escalation?" "The council has no authority over the internal affairs of sovereign empires," Veltar replied sadly. "We can offer diplomatic protests, but we cannot prevent them from attacking you." "I understand," President Santos said quietly. "In that case, I must inform the Council that if either empire launches another unprovoked attack on human territory, we will consider it an act of total war. We will respond with whatever force is necessary to protect our people and our allies." Representative Clix looked confused. "Allies? What allies?" "Any species or nation that stands with us against unprovoked aggression," the president replied. "We hope the Council will remember that humanity has been a peaceful member of this community for 50 years. We've never sought conflict, but we will not allow ourselves to be destroyed by those who mistake our peaceful nature for weakness." Elder Vorth spoke up, his ancient voice carrying the weight of centuries. "Council members, I suggest we send an immediate message to both empires. We should strongly advise them to reconsider their planned attacks." "On what grounds?" asked Zethkar. "On the grounds that they have no idea what they're about to face," Vorth replied. "The humans have shown us only a fraction of their capabilities. If they felt confident enough to reveal their defensive strength, what do you suppose they've kept hidden?" The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. If the small demonstration at Earth was just humanity being gentle, what would happen when they decided to stop holding back? President Santos stood up from her desk, her expression grave. "Council members, I hope for all our sakes that wisdom prevails. Humanity has no quarrel with anyone who leaves us in peace. But we've learned from bitter experience that, sometimes, peace can only be preserved through the demonstration of superior force." She paused, looking directly into the camera. "We hope this situation can be resolved diplomatically. However, we are prepared for whatever comes next." The transmission ended, leaving the council chamber in stunned silence. Outside, across the galaxy, two massive war fleets continued their preparations. Confident that overwhelming numbers would succeed, where smaller forces had failed, They were about to discover just how wrong they could be. Supreme Commander Catherine stood on the crystal bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Shard, surveying the largest fleet the Vex Dominion had ever assembled. 250 ships of crystalline light stretched across space, each one capable of destroying a planet. This was not the small patrol force that had been humiliated at Earth. This was the full might of an empire that had conquered half the galaxy. Battle analysis complete. Supreme Commander, reported his tactical advisor. The humans showed advanced technology in the first engagement, but they only had 30 ships. We outnumber them 8-1. Catherine's crystal form pulsed with confidence. And their weapons? Impressive for a single engagement, but they cannot possibly have enough firepower to stop our entire fleet. No species could. Across the galaxy, in the riding biochambers of the Thren Collective, hive mind Morthek prepared its own massive assault. 300 living ships hung in space like a swarm of giant insects, their organic hulls pulsing with adaptive bioweapons. Unlike the Vex, the Collective had waited and observed, studying the human tactics and preparing counters. Evolution is complete, Morthek announced to its warforms. Our bioships have been enhanced with adaptive shielding. The human weapons cannot surprise us again. Battleform Zargoth writhed with anticipation. When do we strike? Simultaneously with the Vex assault. Let them draw the human fire while we adapt to their tactics. Then we will consume both enemies. On Earth, the hidden command center buzzed with activity. Admiral Rivera studied the tactical displays showing both approaching fleets, his expression calm despite the overwhelming odds. Around him, officers worked at their stations with the quiet efficiency of professionals who had trained for this moment their entire lives. Admiral, reported Captain Martinez. Both enemy fleets are approaching from different vectors. 8 to 6 hours for the Vex, 8 hours for the Thren. They're hoping to overwhelm us with numbers, Rivera observed. Standard galactic warfare doctrine. Hit hard, hit fast, and victory goes to whoever brings the biggest fleet. Colonel Chang looked up from her station. Sir, the enemy fleets represent over 500,000 alien warriors. Even with our advanced technology. Rivera smiled grimly. Colonel, show me the fleet status. The main screen changed to display a strategic map of human space. What it showed would have shocked the galaxy. Hidden throughout the outer rim, camouflaged in asteroid fields and nebulae, were thousands of human ships. Not the few dozen that had fought at Earth, but an entire armada that dwarfed both alien fleets combined. My God, whispered Lieutenant Park. I knew we had reserves. But this... Humanity has been preparing for this day for over 2 centuries, Rivera explained. We hoped it would never come, but we were ready just in case. The Admiral opened a channel to the human fleet. All ships, this is Admiral Rivera. The enemy believes they're facing a handful of defenders. Let's educate them about the true nature of human preparedness. In the Galactic Council chamber, emergency sessions had been running continuously for days. Representatives watched the approaching fleets with growing terror, realizing they were about to witness a battle that could determine the fate of galactic civilization. Both fleets are massive, reported Chairman Veltar, his tentacles shaking with fear. The combined force represents the largest military operation in galactic history. Elder Vorth sat silently in his pod, his ancient eyes sad. I fear we are about to witness something terrible. Not because humanity will lose, but because they will win too decisively. What do you mean? Asked Representative Klix. I mean, Vorth replied slowly, that we may be about to see why humanity withdrew from galactic politics in the first place. Some species are too dangerous to be left unchecked, even by themselves. The Vex fleet struck first. 250 crystal ships dropped out of hyperspace around Earth's outer system, their weapons charging with enough energy to glass an entire planet. Supreme Commander Kethrin felt confident as he surveyed the relatively empty space around the human world. "Scan for enemy ships," he ordered. "Sir, I'm detecting approximately 40 vessels in orbit around Earth. The same small force as before." Kethrin laughed, the sound like crystal breaking. 40 ships against our entire fleet? These humans are either very brave or very stupid. All ships, open fire. Destroy everything. The Vex fleet unleashed a storm of crystal energy that lit up space like a second sun. Enough firepower to destroy a dozen worlds streaked toward the human defenders. It should have been the end of Earth's resistance. Instead, space around the human ships suddenly filled with defensive barriers that absorbed a massive attack without even flickering. Then something happened that made every Vex warrior's crystal blood freeze in terror. The space around their fleet erupted with human ships. They appeared from nowhere, dropping out of stealth fields that had hidden them perfectly from Vex sensors. Hundreds of human vessels materialized around the alien fleet like ghosts becoming solid. The Vex found themselves surrounded by ships they hadn't known existed. "Impossible," Kethrin whispered. "Our scans showed nothing." Admiral Rivera's voice came across the communication channels, calm and professional. "Supreme Commander, you are surrounded and outgunned. Surrender immediately, and your crews will be treated according to galactic law." Instead of surrendering, Kethrin ordered his fleet to attack. What followed was less a battle than a masterclass in military technology and tactics. The human ships moved with impossible coordination, their formations shifting like a living thing. Every shot they fired was precisely placed, disabling enemy vessels without destroying them. The Vex crystal ships, which had conquered countless worlds, found their weapons ineffective against human shields. Their tactics, refined over centuries of warfare, were predicted and countered before they could even implement them. Within 2 hours, the entire Vex fleet was drifting helplessly in space, their crews trapped aboard dead ships. The Thren Collective arrived just in time to watch the last Vex ship go dark. Hive Mind Morthak studied the battlefield with all its linked minds, trying to understand what had happened. Adapt to human tactics, it commanded its bioships. Evolution will overcome their technology. But the Thren Collective faced something they had never encountered before, an enemy that understood adaptation better than they did. As their bioships tried to evolve counters to human weapons, the humans simply changed their attack patterns faster than the collective could adapt. "Impossible," Morthak shrieked as its flagship's nervous system was systematically shut down. "Nothing evolves this quickly." "We're not evolving," Admiral Rivera's voice replied calmly. "We're just using different weapons. When you adapt to energy weapons, we use kinetics. When you counter kinetics, we use cyber warfare. When you defend against that, we use something else entirely." The Thren Collective, masters of biological adaptation, found themselves facing an enemy with thousands of different technologies that could be deployed instantly. Every time they adapted to one attack, the humans switched to something completely different. Within 4 hours, both invasion fleets were completely neutralized. Over 500 ships, representing the military might of 2 galactic empires, had been reduced to helpless hulks. Not a single human vessel had been lost. Total human casualties, 0. The Galactic Council received the battle reports in stunned silence. The tactical summaries read like science fiction. The humans hadn't just won. They had made it look easy. 500 ships, whispered Zethkar. They defeated 500 ships without breaking a sweat. Eldervorth closed his ancient eyes. And they're still being gentle. Notice how they disabled the enemy fleets instead of destroying them. They could have killed 500,000 beings today, but they chose not to. Representative Clicks looked confused. "Gentle? How is this gentle?" "Because," Vorth replied sadly, If humanity wanted to destroy those empires, they would already be gone. This was a demonstration, not a battle. They're showing the galaxy what they're capable of while still showing mercy. On Earth, President Santos received the final casualty reports. Both alien fleets were secured. Over 500,000 enemy personnel were being processed as prisoners, and Earth remained untouched. Casualties? She asked, already knowing the answer. None, Madam President. Some ships report minor system strain from extended stealth operations, but no damage or injuries. The President nodded and looked out at the peaceful city beyond her window. Most of Earth's population still had no idea their world had just fought off the largest military invasion in galactic history. Madam President, said General Harrison, we're receiving surrender offers from both empires. They're requesting immediate ceasefire and negotiations. President Santos smiled grimly. I suppose they finally understand our position. Very well, General. Set up the negotiations. But make it clear that any future aggression will be met with far less restraint than they've seen today. The galaxy was about to learn that humanity's demonstration of military might was just the beginning. The real lesson was still to come. The Galactic Council chamber had never been so quiet. For the first time in its 1,000-year history, every representative sat in complete silence, staring at the holographic displays showing the aftermath of the largest military defeat in recorded galactic history. The combined fleets of two galactic empires drifted powerless in space around Earth, their crews imprisoned aboard their own ships. Chairman Veltar's tentacles trembled as he read the final casualty reports. Over 500 ships disabled. 500,000 enemy personnel captured. Human losses, 0. He looked up at the assembled representatives. How is this possible? Elder Vorth, ancient beyond measure, finally spoke the words that everyone was thinking, but no one dared say. Because we never understood what humanity really was. For 50 years, we saw farmers and traders. We never asked why a species capable of such agriculture and commerce chose to live on the galaxy's edge. We never wondered why they seemed so content with isolation. Representative Clicks shifted nervously in his pod. Elder, what are you suggesting? I'm not suggesting anything, Vorth replied sadly. I'm stating a fact. Humanity is the apex predator species of this galaxy, and we invited them to our table without realizing what they were. The chamber's main screen flickered to life, showing President Santos in her office. She looked tired but determined, like someone who had just finished an unpleasant but necessary task. Behind her, Earth spun peacefully, showing no signs of the massive battle that had just taken place in its outer system. Honorable Council members, she began. I appear before you today to discuss the resolution of recent hostilities. Resolution? Chairman Veltar asked, his voice shaking. President Santos, your forces have just defeated the combined military might of two galactic empires. What resolution could there possibly be? The president's expression was calm and measured. The resolution that should have happened from the beginning, Chairman. Peace. She gestured to someone off-screen, and two figures appeared beside her desk. One was a crystal being in the distinctive armor of Vex nobility. The other a biomechanical creature wearing the living carapace of the Thren Collective. May I present Supreme Commander Kethran of the Vex Dominion and Hive Mind Morthic of the Thren Collective. President Santos announced. They have both signed unconditional surrender documents and have agreed to permanent ceasefire terms. The council chamber erupted in shocked whispers. Both alien leaders looked defeated, their previous arrogance replaced by the hollow stare of beings who had seen something beyond their understanding. The terms are simple, President Santos continued. Both empires will immediately cease all military operations. They will withdraw their forces to their core systems. All territorial disputes between them are to be resolved through arbitration by the Galactic Council. Any future aggression by either party will result in the complete dissolution of their military capabilities. Representative Maleth found her voice. And they agreed to this? Supreme Commander Catherine's crystal form dimmed as he spoke. We agreed because we finally understand what we were fighting. Humanity's demonstration has shown us the futility of continued warfare. Hive mind Morthek writhed uncomfortably. The collective has learned that adaptation has limits. When faced with overwhelming superiority, survival requires submission. President Santos nodded approvingly. Both leaders have shown wisdom in recognizing the reality of their situation. Their forces will be returned to them gradually as they demonstrate compliance with the peace terms. But, Chairman Veltar asked nervously, what about the balance of galactic power? If humanity possesses such military superiority, we want nothing from you. President Santos interrupted gently. We never did. We joined the galactic community 50 years ago, hoping to find peace, trade, and friendship. Those goals haven't changed. Elder Vorth leaned forward in his pod. Then why reveal your true capabilities now? Why not maintain the fiction of being simple farmers? The president was quiet for a moment, choosing her words carefully. Because, Elder, we learned long ago that peace cannot be maintained through deception. Our military capabilities have always existed. We hoped we would never need to use them, but we've always been prepared to defend ourselves and our allies. Allies? Representative Clix asked. Any species that shares our commitment to peace, President Santos replied. We have no interest in domination or conquest, but we will not allow ourselves or our friends to be threatened by those who mistake peaceful intentions for weakness. She gestured toward the two defeated commanders. These empires forced this confrontation through their own aggression. We simply responded with the minimum force necessary to end the threat. Supreme Commander Catherine's crystal form pulsed weakly. Minimum force? You defeated our entire fleet without suffering a single casualty. Yes, President Santos replied matter-of-factly. Had we used maximum force, your empires would no longer exist. We chose to demonstrate restraint because we believe in the possibility of redemption. Us that demonstrate redemption. The implications of her words sent a chill through the council chamber. The overwhelming victory they had witnessed wasn't humanity's full capability. It was them being gentle. Chairman Veltar's tentacles shook as he processed this information. President Santos, the Council needs assurance that humanity will not use its military superiority to impose its will on other species. You have that assurance in our 50-year history as Council members. President Santos replied, We've never sought to impose our will on anyone. We've traded fairly, shared knowledge freely, and respected the sovereignty of all member species. That will not change. But now that your true power is revealed, Representative Clix began. Nothing changes, the President interrupted firmly. We remain committed to peace, trade, and cooperation. The only difference is that potential aggressors now understand the consequences of threatening peaceful species. Elder Vorth nodded slowly. The Terra Doctrine. President Santos looked surprised. I'm sorry? It's what some of us are calling it, Vorth explained. The principle that Earth and its territories are permanently neutral ground, protected by humanity's demonstrated military superiority. Not through law or treaty, but through the universal understanding that attacking humanity is a form of species suicide. The President considered this. If such a doctrine helps maintain galactic peace, we support it. But understand that our protection extends beyond just Earth. We will defend any species that commits to peaceful coexistence. Hive mind Morthek writhed uncomfortably. What of our war? The conflict between the Dominion and the Collective has lasted centuries. "Your war is over," President Santos stated flatly. "Both of you have agreed to permanent ceasefire. The Galactic Council will arbitrate your territorial disputes. Any attempt to resume hostilities will result in immediate intervention by human forces. And if we refuse?" Catherine asked weakly. Admiral Rivera appeared on screen beside the president, his expression cold and professional. "Then you'll discover what happens when humanity stops being gentle." The alien commanders both shuddered at the implications. They had witnessed humanity's restraint firsthand. Neither wanted to discover what human forces could do when mercy was no longer a consideration. President Santos stood from her desk, her expression grave but hopeful. "Council members, humanity stands ready to help build a more peaceful galaxy. We've demonstrated our capability to end wars. Now we'd like to focus on preventing them." She paused, looking directly into the camera. "We hope this demonstration was sufficient to convince potential aggressors that warfare is no longer a viable option. But let there be no mistake. We are prepared for whatever comes next." The transmission ended, leaving the council chamber in stunned silence. Outside, across the galaxy, news of the human victory spread like wildfire. Species that had lived in fear of the great empires suddenly felt hope for the first time in generations. On Earth, life continued much as it always had. Children played in parks while their parents went about their daily lives, most unaware that their peaceful world had just fundamentally changed the balance of galactic power. President Santos stood at her window, watching the city below. General Harrison approached with a final report. "Madam President, all enemy forces have been secured. Both empires have confirmed their compliance with the ceasefire terms. The Galactic Council has formally established the Terra Doctrine as galactic law." The president nodded. "And our fleet status?" "All ships returning to hidden positions, ma'am. We're resuming normal camouflage protocols. To outside observers, we're back to being harmless farmers and traders." President Santos smiled. "Good. Let's hope we can keep it that way." Far across the galaxy, in the ancient archives of the Elder Kithani, scholars worked to update their historical records. For the first time in millennia, they had to create a new entry in the section marked "Species that could end galactic civilization." Humanity had finally revealed its true nature to the galaxy. And the galaxy, for better or worse, would never be the same again. The age of galactic warfare was over. The age of human-enforced peace had begun.